He didn't scream. That's the part that stuck with me. When Superior's daddy finally squared up on that live stream, he didn't yell, didn't puff his chest, didn't do the whole social media rap beef choreography. He just sat there, told the chat what he was about to do, said the words "my son" like he meant them, and in a saga that's been running on decibels for the better part of a year, quiet is the loudest thing anybody said in months. So let's pull up on that. And I mean really pull up. Not the 3-minute version the clip pages are feeding you. The full version. The one with the paper trail. The timing tells. The Mother's Day receipt that everybody forgot about. And the one detail buried in that return announcement that tells you exactly how this is about to play out. Because I've been watching this household since the live stream era started. And I'm telling you right now, what happened between August 14th and August 24th is not 3 separate incidents. It's one story, told in 3 acts, with a 4th act loading. And the man who just stepped out of the shadows might be the only person in this entire cast who understands what game is actually being played. But before we get to him, we gotta be honest about something. Most of y'all found this story through a pool clip, a 10-second loop, a pregnant woman, a kick, a splash, a chat scrolling so fast it looked like a slot machine. And the algorithm served it to you like it was entertainment, because to the algorithm, that's all it is. What the algorithm didn't serve you is the context. The year of breadcrumbs that made that splash feel less like a shocking moment and more like a math problem finally solving itself. So we're gonna do this the way we do it around here. Receipts first. Feelings second. Predictions at the end. And you can hold me to every single one of them in the comments. Real quick before we get in. If you follow this Blueface, Nevaeh timeline the way we do around here, hit that subscribe. Tap the bell. Drop a like on the way down. We're the ones actually tracking who said what and when, not the ones repeating the same 3 clips everybody else is looping. You already know. Let's ride. Here's what actually happened. Between August 14th and August 24th, 2026, 3 things collided on Blueface's Kick channel. He kicked a pregnant Nevaeh Akira into a pool on a live stream. Officers rolled up to his residence hours later after fans swatted him. And then, as if that wasn't enough smoke for 1 week, a domestic argument broke out over why 4-year-old Superior wasn't in school. 9 days missed, according to what Blueface said on stream himself. That's the argument the internet clipped up. That's the argument that made Superior's biological father, the man online mostly knows as DJ Let Them Know, finally break his quiet. Now here's the wrinkle nobody's sitting with long enough. And the wrinkle is this. None of those 3 events surprised anybody who's actually been paying attention. Not the pool. Not the police at the door. Not the school argument. The only genuinely surprising thing that happened in that entire 10-day window was a calm man with no camera history saying "I'm coming back." Everything else was a rerun with new set dressing. And I can prove that because this household has been running the same playbook for years. The only thing that changes is who's holding the clipboard. To understand why August 2026 reads the way it reads, you gotta rewind the tape. Johnathan Jamall Porter Blueface has never in his public life separated his relationships from his content. Not once. Go back to 2018, 2019, the Philshiana era, the offbeat flow viral run that took him from a Los Angeles driveway to a platinum plaque. Even then, the persona was the product. Unbothered, chaotic, allergic to decorum. A man who turned being unimpressed into a brand identity. That was fun when it was music. It became something else when it became a household. Because what came after the music peak wasn't an album rollout. It was a reality television instinct with no network attached. Remember the Blue Girls Club era? Back in 2020 and 2021, when he was housing a rotating cast of women in his mansion and filming the whole thing for social media. That drew heavy criticism at the time. Outlets covered the fights, the tattoos, the comparisons that critics were making to cult dynamics, and he reportedly leaned into every bit of it, because the views never lied. That was the first version of the machine. My private life is my inventory. The controversy wasn't a bug in that business model. It was the revenue. Then came the Crazian Rock years, and y'all know I don't have the runtime to do that saga justice, but understand its function in this story. That relationship, covered exhaustively by the Shade Room, Complex, and every blog with a login screen, was the proof of concept for everything happening now. The public fights, the arrests, the breakups announced on Instagram Lives, and the reunions announced the same way. The birth of Cryptix Jr. in September 2023, with the delivery itself reportedly streamed to hundreds of thousands of viewers, while the father was, per his own social media at the time, somewhere else entirely. Every wound got monetized in real time. Every reconciliation got a trailer. And the audience, us, let's be honest, us, trained him that no boundary would ever cost him views. The worse it got, the more we watched. That's not an accusation. That's just the analytics. Then the legal system did what the algorithm never would. It turned the cameras off. The 2022 Las Vegas shooting case, the attempted murder charge that ended in a plea deal and probation, all of it covered by the local Vegas press and the national music outlets at the time, eventually caught up with him. A probation violation arrest in January 2024, and by August 2024, per reporting by the Los Angeles Times and others, a judge handed down a 4-year prison sentence. Now, with credit for time served and the way California custody math works, the calendar did what the calendar does. But the point isn't the arithmetic. The point is what prison does to a content empire. It freezes it. For the first time in half a decade, the Blueface story was being told entirely by other people. Wack 100 held the mic. Jaden Alexis held the narrative. Cryptix held the sympathy. Carlisa held the family seat. Everybody ate off the story except the man the story was about. So when he came home, he didn't come home to a life. He came home to a market that had learned to trade without him. And a man with his instincts had exactly one move. Flood the zone. Reassert ownership of the narrative. Make every room in that house a studio again. And into that vacuum walked Nevaeh Akira. Young, pregnant, already a mother, already living a life that was about to become programming. Keep that frame in your pocket, because everything in the next 10 days of this timeline is that frame, playing out live. Now, the cast sheet. Because if you're new here, you're lost without it. Blueface. Real name Johnathan Jamall Porter. Rapper, streamer, one-time reality TV Gravity Well. The sun this whole solar system orbits, whether the planets like it or not. Nevaeh Akira. His girlfriend as of this recording. Mother of 4-year-old superior from a previous relationship. And as of August 18th, mother of Johnathan Jamall Porter Jr., Blueface's newest son. At the time of the pool incident, she was still pregnant. I need you to hold on to that fact every time this story gets told, because it keeps getting dropped. Superior. For years old. Nevaeh's son. Not Blueface's biological child. And that one sentence is the entire engine of this episode, so underline it. DJ let them know. Superior's biological father. DJ father, and, until this month, the quietest man in a story full of loud ones. Remember that description, because the whole back half of this video is about what it means when the quiet one clears his throat. And then the extended universe, because this story has a deeper bench than a playoff roster. Wack 100, the manager who's never met a microphone he didn't monetize. Cryptix Rock, the most famous ex in the ecosystem and mother of Cryptix Jr., Blueface's son, who's about to turn 3. Jaden Alexis, the mother of his 2 older kids, out here building her own music career off a fan base the relationship built. Carlisa Saffold, Kaylee, as the timeline calls her, the mother whose silence we're going to talk about, because it's load-bearing. Kai bands in the orbit. Rella Baby running clips. Sam with the angles. Everybody eats. Everybody streams. Everybody, except one man, has been on camera. You see the shape of it now. Good. Let's get into the 10 days that changed the board. Y'all remember Mother's Day. May. Superior's dad posted a picture, his son's mama. A caption that read the way cool co-parent captions always read. Nevaeh clapped back publicly. Said she wasn't with the performative post. Said keep her out of that. That was the peak of their public tension before it went quiet. Months of nothing. Then, mid-August, Blueface popped Superior in the eye. Allegedly by accident. Phone in hand, mid-argument. And the phone rings on the stream. It's him. Superior's dad. On the line. On camera. On record. I don't like the way you treating my son. That was the pull quote that flew. And I need to stop on that Mother's Day post for a second, because at the time, the blogs treated it like a 48-hour skirmish and moved on. It wasn't. It was a boundary test. And the results of that test explain everything about August. Look at what the post actually was. A father publicly asserting his place in a picture his son's life had started to crowd him out of. And look at what the response was. A public correction, in front of everybody, telling him to shrink back down. Now, I'm not picking a side in that exchange. Co-parenting friction is older than the internet, but notice the mechanics of it. When these two have a dispute, it happens in public, in writing, in a format that strangers can vote on. That's the house style. That's the ecosystem superior is being raised inside. Every adult conflict comes with a comment section. So when that post came down and the silence followed, a lot of people read the silence as peace. I read it as posture, because silence in this family is never empty. It's either exhaustion or strategy. And a man who DJs for a living knows exactly what a held note does to a room. He held that note from May to August. 3 months. No subliminals, no clapbacks, no fellas, am I wrong? Posts fishing for a jury. Just quiet. And quiet, in an attention economy, compounds like interest. Every week Blueface went live with Superior in the frame. The father's silence got more expensive to break and more valuable to spend. He was saving it. Whether he knew he was saving it, I can't tell you. But he was saving it. Then came the phone call. And let's slow that moment all the way down, because the clip traveled faster than the context. Per the footage that circulated, Blueface is midstream, mid-argument energy. The kid takes a hit to the eye area from a phone during the commotion. Allegedly accidental. And I'm going to say allegedly every time, because that's what the record supports, and what it doesn't support, we don't say. And while the stream is still hot, the biological father calls in. Not texts. Not a DM. A call, patched into a live broadcast, which means two things at once. 1. He was watching in real time, which tells you he watches that channel more than any of us knew. And 2. He chose the most public possible channel for the most private possible sentence. I don't like the way you treatin' my son. 9 words. No profanity, no threats, no caps lock. If you've ever watched a man try not to say the second sentence, you recognize the sound of that first one. Nevaeh's response? Sharp. Immediate. She reportedly told him to mind his own house and stop performing for a camera he wasn't even holding. Because that's the thing about this feud. Every principal in it knows the stream is on. Everybody's got an angle. Everybody's got a clip to cut. That's why what happened next matters. And let's be fair to Nevaeh for one beat, because the internet wasn't. Whatever you think of her clapback, understand the position she was standing in when she delivered it. Pregnant at the time, days from delivering, in a house where the walls have lenses, fielding a custody-flavored confrontation she didn't schedule, on a broadcast she didn't start. A flash of temper in that moment is not a character diagnosis. It's a Tuesday in that house. The problem was never that she snapped. The problem, and this is the through line of this entire episode, is that snapping and not snapping are worth the exact same amount of money on that channel. So nobody in that house has a financial reason to ever choose calm. Except, apparently, one man. And he doesn't live there. Because on August 23rd, Superior's father hopped on his own broadcast and said this. And I'm giving it to you word for word so nobody can spin it. I'm coming back. Look, I'm about to be on Kick real soon going live for y'all. I know it's a lot of talk about my son and my baby mama. We're gonna get there. All right. I promise you. I love my son. I love my kids. But you know, baby mama don't exist. You feel me? So roll in the punches and punch with the roses. Read that twice. He didn't say X. He didn't say co-parent. He said baby mama don't exist, which, if you speak fluent internet, means a very specific thing. It means I'm about to talk. And when I do, the framing of this whole story changes. Wild. But hold on, because there's a second layer in that quote that I haven't seen a single recap catch. And it's the part that made me sit up straight. Look at the order of operations in his sentences. I love my son. I love my kids. Plural, kids, which tells you Superior isn't his only child. Which tells you this man has a whole fatherhood resumed that has never once been fed to a content machine. Then, and only then, baby mama don't exist. He front-loaded the love and back-loaded the erasure. That's not an accident of grammar. That's a man announcing, in advance, what the terms of engagement are going to be. The child is the subject, The mother is off limits as a target, and the conflict, whatever's coming, is going to be conducted on ground he chooses. And then the closer, rolling the punches and punch with the roses. Y'all heard that, and kept scrolling. I rewound it 4 times. It scrambled, sure. The man was clearly speaking from the chest, not from notes, which honestly makes it more revealing, not less. But the image underneath it is unmistakable, absorbing hits and responding with softness. Roses, not stones. Now, whether he actually holds that line when the chat starts baiting him, and the chat will bait him. Kick chats are demolition derbies with usernames, is a whole separate question. But as mission statements go, he just announced the exact opposite of the Blueface playbook. One of them monetizes escalation. The other one just told you, on the record, that he's monetizing restraint. Guess which one a family court finds more interesting? Hold that thought. We're coming back to it. Now let me put the second half of the incident on the table, because the 2 clips are hitting the algorithm at the exact same time, and that's not an accident on the internet's part. While Superior's dad is loading up his return stream, Blueface is on his own channel gutting Nevaeh's parenting on the record. Not vague, not subtle, specific. He says Superior missed 9 days of school in a stretch that shouldn't have had 9 days available to miss. He says Nevaeh oversleeps. He says she blames the 4-year-old for staying up on the iPad, as if a preschooler negotiated his own bedtime, instead of admitting she didn't wake up. His words, direct from the stream. How you gonna blame a 4-year-old for not going? Just say you was tired. I'ma shut up. I understand. But to just try to go off the blame game and get smart with me, man, I'm gonna cuss you out. And later, colder, about the newborn. She won't put the damn baby down. She probably held Superior all day, and then he got too big. So now she can't hold him, and now it's, pick up me, John's, because she started something that she could not finish. I sat with that one for a minute, because it's mean, sure. It's also, and I'ma be honest, a weirdly clinical thing to say about the mother of the son you just had 8 days ago. Like, Johnathan Jamall Porter Jr. was born August 18th. This diagnosis of her mothering habits is being delivered on stream before the child is a full week old. That's not parenting critique. That's positioning. Now, let's deal with the substance before we deal with the strategy, because there's substance in there, and I'm not going to pretend there isn't just because the delivery was ugly. Is chronic absenteeism for a 4-year-old a real issue? Yes, genuinely. Attendance researchers have been shouting for years that chronic absence in preschool and kindergarten, and 9 missed days in a short window absolutely qualifies, is one of the strongest early predictors of academic struggle later, because those years are when kids are building the routine itself. The waking up, the going, the sitting in a room with other children, the whole operating system of school. That's not gossip. That's education research that's been reported everywhere from NPR to the education trade press for a decade. So when a man says, why hasn't this kid been to school in 9 days? The question is legitimate. I'll give him the question. But here's what separates a parent from a prosecutor. What you do after you ask it. A parent asks that question at the kitchen table, then drives the kid to school the next morning, then sets the alarm for the kid's mama, then handles it. A prosecutor asks it into a microphone, in front of a live chat, with the clip already mentally trimmed. Blueface didn't just raise the attendance issue. He documented it, timestamped it, and broadcast it to an audience of strangers who do not pay Superior's tuition and will never meet him. And the sentence structure tells on him. Listen to it again. Just say you was tired. I'ma shut up. I understand. He's not asking for the child's sake. He's asking for concession. He wants the admission, on tape, in his own words. Say you was tired. That's not a man seeking a solution. That's a man seeking a quote. And the second quote, the she won't put the damn baby down quote. That's the one that should be studied, because it's doing 3 jobs at once. On the surface, it's a complaint about a newborn being held too much, which, sidebar, is a complaint that no pediatrician on earth would co-sign. The entire postpartum literature says you cannot spoil an 8-day-old infant with contact. That skin to skin and holding are literally the recommended care. So as parenting criticism, it's medically backwards. But watch what it does rhetorically. It reframes a mother bonding with a days-old baby as a character flaw. She started something that she could not finish. It recasts tenderness as incompetence. And it quietly rewrites history, because she held superior all day, and then he got too big. Is a man telling you that this woman's entire parenting style has always been a problem. He just never mentioned it until the week it became useful. Convenient memory, that. Which brings us to the thing under the thing, the timing. Johnathan Jamall Porter Jr. was born August 18th. The name itself made news. The Shade Room covered the reveal, including that the baby was initially introduced under a different name, Solar Porter, before landing on the junior treatment. And I don't want to skim past that, because a name change in the first week of life, announced and then revised in public, is a small thing that tells a big story. Even the baby's identity got a soft launch and a patch update, like an app. Nothing in that household gets to just be. Everything gets versioned. So zoom out and look at the sequence with fresh eyes. August 14th, pool incident, police respond. No arrest, per TMZ's reporting. August 18th, the baby arrives, on-stream energy. Name reveal, the whole monetized miracle. Days later, the school argument, the iPad blame, the she won't put the baby down diagnosis, all delivered into a camera. 8 days from she's bringing my son into the world to let me tell the world what kind of mother she is. That's not a relationship deteriorating. That's a narrative pivoting. And narratives pivot for reasons. The reason just announced he was coming to kick. But we'll get there. Let me zoom in on one frame, because there's a moment in that same stream that got flattened in every recap. Blueface pulls Superior into his lap, asks him why he doesn't want to go to school. Kid says the monsters, says the whole classroom is full of monsters. Blueface, and here's the part one keep replaying, leans back and softens, tells the child there ain't no monsters, reads a Christmas book with him, tells him he's an Aquarius, tells him he'll wake up and take him to school himself if his mama doesn't, and then, still on stream, still with the camera hot, says he doesn't need speech therapy. He just needs to go to school and be around kids that talk the way he talks. He talks like a Minion, 'cause he's been watching Minions his whole life. Read that with fresh eyes. That's not a stepdad venting. That's a man building a public case file. Every sentence is doing double work. Half father figure, half testimony. And if a custody conversation is coming, and it sure looks like one is, every one of those on-stream diagnoses becomes an exhibit somebody's screen recording. Also, and I don't want to be the one who says it, but I must say it, using a 4-year-old speech patterns and school anxiety as live stream content is a choice. It's a choice. That's all I'm going to call it. And since I called it a choice, let me be specific about what the choice consists of, because choice is doing a lot of work in that sentence. Choice number 1, the question itself. A 4-year-old says there are monsters in his classroom, and any child development professional will tell you that's about as standard a preschool sentence as exists. Monsters is how a 4-year-old files the paperwork for big feelings I don't have words for yet. It could mean a kid was mean to him. It could mean the lights are loud. It could mean nothing at all. The correct response is exactly what Blueface did in the moment. Soften, reassure, read the book. And I'll give him that moment honestly, because the tenderness looked real, and I think it probably was real. That's what makes the rest of it so uncomfortable. The instinct was fatherly. The venue was forensic. Choice number 2, the diagnosis. He doesn't need speech therapy. Stop there. That sentence only exists if somebody else, Nevaeh, presumably, or somebody in her corner, had previously raised the possibility that the child might benefit from a speech evaluation. So what we're actually watching is one side of a private parenting disagreement being litigated in public, unilaterally, by the party with the bigger microphone. Early intervention specialists will tell you the same thing every time. An evaluation is free or cheap. It's non-binding. And the entire research consensus says earlier is better when there's a genuine concern. Rejecting even the assessment isn't a medical position. There's no medical position here at all. There's a custody-flavored one, because she wants therapy he doesn't need, is a sentence that sounds very different in a courtroom than, we got him evaluated and here's what they said. Choice number 3, the Aquarius line. Telling a 4-year-old his zodiac sign on stream is cute, harmless throwaway. But it's also the tell. That whole lap scene. The monsters, the Christmas book, the horoscope. I'll take him to school myself. is a man performing the role of the stable one for an audience, which is a very different thing from being stable for the child. The child doesn't need an audience. The audience isn't for the child. The audience is for whoever reviews the tape later. And somebody will review the tape later. That's not a prediction. That's a description of how this family works. These clips are already archived on a dozen channels, including the ones running them right now. Okay, media split. Because different outlets are running this 3 different ways, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. Complex went legal and serious. Their framing centered on the pool incident, the police response, and the fact that a pregnant woman was kicked into water, anchoring the story in potential harm, not entertainment. That's a specific editorial choice. That's the "this could turn into something worse" outlet voice. TMZ went procedural. Cops called. No arrest made. Full stop. The framing is nothing legally happened here, which lets the celebrity gossip cycle keep spinning without the weight of a real charge attached. It's a clean beat. Reads like a scoreboard update. The shade room and the blog ecosystem. That's where the drama lives. Their framing runs on Superior's face, Nevaeh's face, the argument transcripts, the chilly energy. It's designed to be quoted, screen-capped, duet. That's a totally different job than reporting. Now, I want to add a 4th lane to that split, because there's an entire media tier covering this story that isn't a media company at all. And in terms of raw eyeballs on this specific saga, it might be the biggest one. I'm talking about the clip economy, the React channels, the Rella babies of the world, the Facebook T pages, the Instagram aggregator accounts, the TikTok duet chains, the layer of the internet that takes a 40-minute kick stream and reduces it to the 19 seconds most likely to make you comment, "Nah, this is crazy." And I don't say that with contempt, because that layer is doing the labor the outlets won't. The aggregators are the reason the Mother's Day post, the phone call, the return announcement, and the school argument all live in one searchable place. But understand the distortion that layer introduces. An aggregator's incentive is not accuracy, and it's not even drama, it's compression. Whoever cuts the story smallest wins. And you cannot compress a complicated household with a child at the center into 19 seconds without somebody becoming a villain and somebody becoming a punchline. The clip economy doesn't do nuance. It does casting. That's why the same footage can produce 3 comment sections that sound like they're about 3 different families. Under the complex story, the comments are talking about accountability and the police response. Under the TMZ story, they're cracking jokes because TMZ already told them, structurally, that nothing serious happened. No arrest made is a permission slip to laugh. And under the Shade Room posts, they're doing what the Shade Room comment section was invented to do. Picking a woman to blame and a woman to defend, and riding till the wheels fall off. Same family. Same footage. 3 different stories. If you've ever wondered how everybody in a comment section can be so confident, and so wrong in opposite directions, that's how. They're not watching the story. They're watching the framing. And then there's the outlet nobody cites, but everybody obeys. The recommendation engine itself. The reason the pool clip and the return announcement clip and the school argument clip all hit your feed in the same 48 hours isn't coincidence, and it isn't even the story's natural momentum. It's that the algorithm noticed a cluster and did what clusters make it do. Once you watched one, you got all 3. The machine smelled a saga, and a saga to the machine is just a subscription funnel with people's lives in it. Now Steelman the countertake real quick. The one loudest in Blueface comments. It goes. He's the only adult in that house actually parenting. He's the one asking why the kid is in school. He's the one reading with him. Nevaeh is the problem. And listen, some of that's not baseless. He is the one asking. He did read with him. But you don't get to build a public parenting resume on a child who isn't yours while simultaneously kicking his pregnant mother into a pool 8 days before you have a baby with her. Those 2 things can't share a room. Pick one. And I want to extend that Steelman even further than his own fans do. Because the strongest version of the counterargument deserves to lose honestly, not to a strawman. So here it is, the best possible case. This man came home from prison to a household that had learned to run without him. He's trying to reassert structure, school attendance, bedtimes, routines, the unsexy stuff that actually raises kids. He's doing it clumsily, in the only language his career ever taught him, which is the camera. And yeah, the pool incident was ugly, but TMZ says no arrest. The couple stayed together. The baby came 4 days later, and she named the child after him, with a name change she participated in announcing. If it was the catastrophe the blogs wanted to be, would any of that have happened? That's the argument at its strongest. And pieces of it are real. The attendance concern is real. The reading moment is real. Structure matters. But it collapses on the same load-bearing wall every time. And the wall is this: you cannot separate the parenting from the programming. Every single one of those virtuous moments happened in front of a monetized audience, which means every single one of them had two beneficiaries, and only one of them was the child. If he asks about school on stream, Superior gets an advocate and Blueface gets content. If he reads the book on stream, Superior gets a bedtime story and Blueface gets a character witness. And the moment the incentives diverge, the moment the best thing for the child is the thing that doesn't clip well, we find out which beneficiary the house is built around. The pool clip suggests we already found out. You don't have to take my word for it. Take the police reports. There's one more version of the countertake I keep seeing, and I want to address it head on. Why is everybody mad at Blueface when the biological father hasn't been around? And I need to push back on the premise, because we don't actually know that. What we know is that he hasn't been broadcast. Absence from the timeline is not absence from the child. The man has kids, plural, his words, and a career, and exactly one public controversy in the last 4 months, and it was a Mother's Day post. If your evidence that a father is uninvolved is that he's not on kick, then every good father in America is uninvolved. The camera's presence proves somebody's performing. It has never once proved somebody's parenting. Here's the read the press won't print. Everybody's covering this like it's a parenting fight. It's not. It's a positioning war. And the man who understood that first is the one nobody's paying attention to, Superior's dad. Look at the choreography. Blueface goes live. Nevaeh goes live. Whack 100 pops in on somebody's channel. Cryptix Rock is somewhere in the background of the discourse, because she always is. Jaden Alexis is out here with her music. Kai Bands is in the mentions. Carlissa's silent, which is her form of loud. Rella Baby's channel is running clips. Sam's got angles. Everybody in this ecosystem monetizes attention. Every single one of them. Superior's father hasn't. Not really. Not since Mother's Day. Now let me walk that cast list one more time, slower, because each of those names is a line item in this economy, and incentives matter. Whack 100, the manager, the fixer, the man who held the narrative for 2 years while his client was inside and came out the other side with his own podcast profile bigger than ever. Whack's incentive is the oldest one in entertainment. Controversy is only a problem when it's unmonetized. As long as the streams draw and the deal's clear, chaos is a line of business. But notice what a custody storyline does to that math. A judge doesn't care about view counts. A custody order that touches the household's ability to film its children touches the product. For the first time, the manager's incentive and the content model might not be the same thing. Watch Whack's volume over the next month. If he goes quiet, that's information. Cryptix Rock. And I'm not going to relitigate that history. We don't have the runtime, and honestly she deserves a video where she's the subject and not the subplot. But her position in this story is structural. She's the proof of concept for what happens to the women in this content model. Years of public chaos, a child whose birth was programming, and a post-relationship life spent litigating the relationship she already left. Every new woman who enters this ecosystem gets measured against her shadow. Nevaeh's been getting the new Cryptix framing since day one, and that framing is unfair to both of them, but it's also a warning label printed in plain sight. Cryptix Jr. turns 3 next month. That archive is already older than some YouTube channels' entire catalogs. Jaden Alexis, the blueprint for the exit. 2 kids with him. Years of on and off played out in public. And then the pivot. Take the audience the relationship built and convert it into a music career of her own. Whatever you think of the music, understand the move. She's the one who proved the attention is transferable. You can leave the house and keep the followers. That matters to this story because it's the roadmap sitting in front of Nevaeh right now, whether she wants it or not. And Carlissa, Kaylee, the mother. Carlissa Saffold has never been shy a day in her public life. This is a woman who has gone live to defend her son, criticize his partners, and narrate family business in real time for years. Which is exactly why her silence this month is the loudest data point on the board. A new grandson, a junior, carrying her son's whole government name, arrived on August 18th, and the loudest grandmother in hip-hop adjacency has been measured. Quiet by her standards. Now, maybe that's growth. Maybe that's a family group chat doing its job. Or maybe, and this is the read I keep coming back to, the people closest to the situation understand something the blogs don't, that the legal weather is changing, and every word said on a stream this month is a word that can be read back in a room with a court reporter in it. When the loudest person in the family goes quiet at the exact moment the quietest person starts talking, that's not a coincidence. That's a weather report. Kai bands and the mentions, Rella Baby running clips, Sam with the angles, the middle class of this economy, the ones who don't live in the house, but pay rent with its footage. Their incentive is the simplest one in the whole ecosystem. They need this story to continue. Resolution is bad for business. Keep that in mind when you see the narrative nudge toward escalation. Some of the loudest voices in this discourse have a direct financial interest in nobody ever making up. He's watched his son become, and I'm using his framing here, not mine, a background character in somebody else's monetized domestic drama. He watched a rapper who isn't him raise a red, white, and blue flag over the boy's whole childhood on the internet. He watched a phone hit his son's eye on a stream that stayed live afterward. And instead of tweeting, he did the one thing that actually costs Blueface something. He announced a return to live streaming. Because that's the currency here. Streams. Not lawyers. Not statements. Streams. The Blueface household's entire economic engine runs on Kick. The arguments, the reveals, the labor, the newborn's first breath. All of it monetized. A man with a legal, blood-tied claim to superior stepping into that same medium isn't a rebuttal. It's a rival broadcast. And you saw how careful his phrasing was. We gotta get there. I promise. That's not a threat. That's a schedule. Nevaeh's gotta feel that. Blueface definitely feels it. You can hear it in how quickly the parenting critique volume went up on his own channel after that phone call. That wasn't a coincidence, nah. Scratch that. I hate that phrase. What I mean is, the timing tells you the temperature. The louder Blueface gets about Nevaeh's mothering, the more he's inoculating against whatever Superior's father says on his own stream next. He's writing his opening statement first. And let's be precise about what writing his opening statement first means in practice, because it's a real litigation tactic and it has a name. Persuasion. Get your frame in before the other side's frame arrives, so that when their frame arrives, the audience is already wearing your glasses. If Superior's dad goes live next week and says, "My son deserves stability," the pre-suad audience doesn't hear a father's concern. They hear a talking point they've already been inoculated against, because they spent 2 weeks hearing that the real stability problem in that house is Nevaeh's parenting. And hey, didn't her ex vanish for months anyway? See how that works. The school attendance rant wasn't aimed at Nevaeh. Nevaeh already knows how Nevaeh parents. It was aimed at the jury pool. And the jury pool is us. There's a second layer of persuasion hiding in plain sight, too. And it's the subtlest move in the whole playbook. Ownership language. Blueface consistently frames Superior as part of his household, his responsibility, his mornings, his school runs. Listen to the quotes again. "I'ma shut up, I understand. I'll wake up and take him to school myself." That's the language of the man of the house. And in a vacuum, a stepfather stepping up is a beautiful thing. But we are not in a vacuum. We're in a timeline where the biological father just announced his return, and suddenly the stepfather's on-stream parenting is at an all-time high. If you think that correlation is accidental, I've got a bridge in the metaverse to sell you. He's not just building a case against her mothering. He's building a case for his fatherhood, of a child the law says isn't his. Because here's the thing about custody fights that the internet doesn't understand. They're not actually between the two loudest people. They're between the parents. And Blueface is not Superior's parent, which means in any courtroom version of this story, the most famous man in the fight is legally a witness. Maybe that's the real source of the temperature. He can outstream anybody on earth, but he cannot outstanding the man with the birth certificate. Nevaeh, meanwhile, is in the worst position in the entire triangle, and it's worth saying out loud. Whatever she does next is a clip. If she goes live and defends herself, she's performing. If she stays quiet, she's guilty. If she sides with Blueface, she's choosing the bag over her son's father. If she sides with Superior's dad, she's betraying the father of her 8-day-old baby in week 1 of his life. There's no move available to her that the comment sections have agreed to grade fairly. And she just did the most physically and emotionally consuming thing a human body can do, with the delivery reportedly folded into the content calendar. The postpartum period is brutal and private. She's doing hers in a stadium. Whatever else this story is, keep a little grace in your pocket for that. And here's what most of the internet's missing. The person actually best positioned in all this isn't the one with the biggest platform. It's the one with the cleanest hands, the quietest month, and the paperwork. In a courtroom, in a custody hearing, in the court of Aquarius-loving public opinion, receipts of restraint beat receipts of chaos. Every time. Ask any family lawyer who's ever watched a client livestream their own case into the ground. Blueface has been on camera every day. Superior's father has been on camera almost never. Guess whose highlight reel plays better on a projector in a mediation room? And that mediation room projector is not a metaphor. So let me make it concrete. Because this is the part of the story where internet logic and court logic fully diverge. On the internet, a receipts war is won by volume. Whoever has more clips, more quotes, more W's in the chat, wins the day. In family court, it inverts. Volume becomes liability. Every hour of footage is an hour of potential exhibits, and the parent with the smaller archive is usually the one smiling in the hallway. Family law attorneys have been warning clients about social media for over a decade. It's one of the most consistent pieces of advice in the entire field, covered everywhere from bar association journals to divorce blogs. Assume everything you post will be read aloud in court, because a meaningful slice of it will be. Now take that baseline advice and apply it to a man whose entire profession is posting. Not posting occasionally, posting industrially. Arguments, parenting critiques, a pregnant partner going into a pool, a 4-year-old speech patterns, a school attendance dispute, a newborn's first week. All of it time-stamped, all of it archived, all of it screen recorded by channels he doesn't control, in versions he can't delete. Whatever a custody evaluator wants to know about the climate of that household, they don't need to interview anybody. They need a Wi-Fi connection. And one more legal adjacent point, carefully stated, with the language it deserves. I am not saying Blueface is a party to any custody dispute over Superior, because legally he isn't one. I'm not saying any filing exists, because as of this recording, no filing has been reported. And I'm definitely not saying anyone in this story is an unfit parent. That's not my call. It's not the internet's call. And the standard for that is a mountain higher than any clip. What I'm saying is narrower and, honestly, more interesting. If Superior's father ever does walk into an LA County family courtroom, the single most comprehensive documentary record of his son's daily environment over the past year was produced, edited, and published by the household itself. He won't need to build a case file. He'll need a login. That's the strategic position. And he built none of it. He just had to stay home and let the stream run. The likeliest short-term move. Superior's dad hops on Kick within the next week or two, keeps the tone measured, and lets the internet do the comparison for him. He doesn't need to torch Blueface. He needs to not be Blueface. Every calm sentence is a subtweet. Watch how he lands the first stream. If he opens with the kid, closes with the kid, and never uses Nevaeh's name in anger, he's already won the framing war, and Blueface has to respond from a defensive crouch he's not built for. Don't be shocked when the phrase co-parent starts trending in his comments before he even asks for it. Now, the temptation, and the chat will apply it by the truckload, will be to go for the throat, to answer for the phone to the eye incident, to say something about the pool that can't be unsaid, to do the victory lap while the timeline's hot. And I want to game that out honestly, because there's a version of that stream that feels amazing for 90 minutes and costs him everything by the weekend. The moment he calls Blueface a name, the story stops being Concerned Father Returns and becomes two men beefing over a woman. And that second story is the only one Blueface knows how to win. Beef is his home court. Beef is where the experience gap is 40 years of combined reps. The entire Blueface media machine is a beef conversion engine. Conflict comes in one end, content comes out the other, and everybody who steps into it gets turned into inventory. The only move that engine has no counter for is a man who refuses to rev it. Boring is the counter punch. If Superior's dad goes live and is genuinely, stubbornly boring, talks about school pickups, talks about his son's favorite dinosaur, takes no bait, swings at nothing, the clip economy will starve in real time, and the contrast will do all the talking. The worst possible outcome for Blueface isn't a great insult. It's a stream so calm that the aggregators can't cut it. The path that flips the whole table. Paperwork. Actual paperwork. The kind that doesn't announce itself on a stream. If a filing gets pulled in an LA County family court, modified custody, supervised visitation, protective language around exposure to live stream conflict, the entire Blueface content model takes a body blow. Because his brand right now is domestic chaos as entertainment, and a judge signing an order that says a child in this household cannot appear on monetized streams is a career-adjacent event, not a family-adjacent one. That would rewire the whole kick economy for the household overnight. And it's not far-fetched. The pool incident already put a police report on the record. Paper trails compound. And let's sit with that compounding for a second, because it's the least sexy and most important mechanic in this whole story. One police call out with no arrest, standing alone, is a TMZ scoreboard update. But paper doesn't experience each event the way the internet does, as a fresh 24-hour news cycle that resets the outrage clock. Paper accumulates. A police response in August sits in a system. A school that documents 9 absences in a short window has its own records, and schools are mandated reporters with long institutional memories. Streams get clipped, but they're also archived by third parties the household can't DMCA into oblivion. And the thing about family court that surprises everybody the first time, it runs on patterns, not incidents. Nobody loses custody over a clip. People lose ground over documentation of a climate. And the climate is the one thing this household produces in industrial quantities. The pool incident was reported as a single event. The next event won't be. It'll be reported as the latest, and then the one after that as a pattern. And a pattern is the exact moment a story stops belonging to the blogs and starts belonging to professionals with lanyards. That's the compound interest of chaos. The balance doesn't reset at midnight. It just waits. The 5 years out residue. This is the one nobody talks about, because it's not clippable. Superior turns 9, 10, 11. He types his own name into a search bar for the first time. And what pulls up is a decade of footage of adults arguing about him, over him, around him, with him crying in the corner of the frame. That doesn't fade. That becomes the internet's opening chapter of who he is. Once that hits, whichever parent has the smaller archive of that footage wins the long relationship. Blueface loses that race by a mile. He's not even competing in it. Meanwhile, Superior's dad, quiet, off-camera, unclippable, is running away with it without even knowing there was a race. Watch the aftershock hit right when Johnathan Jr. is old enough to understand the phrase "my brother," because Superior is going to have an opinion on who kept his eyes off the camera. And that opinion travels. And that's the part that actually keeps me up about this story, long after the clips stop being funny. There are 2 little boys at the center of this now. Superior, for years old, already a character in a franchise he never auditioned for, and Johnathan Jamall Porter Jr., 8 days old as of the last rent, whose name, face, and first week of life were already content before he could focus his eyes. Neither of them consented to any of it. Neither of them can. And the internet will move on. The internet always moves on. There's another pool clip cooking in somebody else's backyard right now. But the footage doesn't move on. The footage just sits there, compounding like everything else, waiting for the day it's not content anymore, waiting for the day it's childhood. And when those boys are old enough to read the comment sections, and that day is coming on a schedule nobody in that house controls, the question won't be who won the streams, or who won the blogs, or even who won the courtroom. The question will be embarrassingly simple. Who was trying to protect me? And who was trying to monetize me? Every adult in this story is answering that question right now, in real time, in permanent ink. Most of them just don't know they're answering it. That's the stakes. That's the whole ball game. Not the pool, not the phone call, not the 9 days of school. Those are just the receipts. The purchase is 2 childhoods. That's the read. That's the one you're not getting anywhere else. Because everybody else is chasing the loud clip, while the quiet clip is where the story actually turned. Superior's father didn't break his silence. He broke the pattern. And in an ecosystem built on noise, silence is the only move nobody in that house knows how to counter. So here's what we're watching for, and I want it on the record so the receipts age in public. 1. The return stream itself, when it drops, what the tone is, whether he takes the bait or starves it. If he opens with Superior and closes with Superior, remember who told you the framing war was already over. 2. Blueface volume. If the parenting critique content keeps escalating after that stream, you're watching persuasion turn into panic, and panic on that channel has a very specific sound. It sounds like certainty. 3. Whack 100 and Carlisa. If the two loudest defenders in the family stay measured while the house is on fire, the lawyers are already in the group chat, and everything I'm telling you about paper trails isn't analysis anymore, it's history. And 4. The quiet one. The one nobody will clip. The school attendance. Whether Superior is in a classroom, consistently, boringly, unstreamed. Because if all this smoke was ever really about the kid, that's the only metric that moves. Everything else is programming. And one last thing, because I say it every episode and it has never mattered more than it does in this one. These are real people, and 2 of them are children. Be as loud as you want in these comments about the adults' choices. That's the game they chose to play on camera. But the 4-year-old who thinks his classroom has monsters in it didn't choose anything. Talk about the strategy. Leave the baby out of the crossfire. We're better than the algorithm thinks we are. Prove it. If this hit, like it, subscribe, tap the bell. Tell me in the comments who you think plays this smarter over the next 30 days. We're on this story till it lands. Fame Cryptix out.